To the August 17th, 2026 Hudson School Board meeting. Ethan, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any Hudson residents here this evening who would like to provide input either on agenda items or items that this board has control over? Moving on, we have our good news update from Assistant Superintendent Benson.
Good evening. I have a couple of updates. The first one is about our annual STEM camp that was held at Nottingham West Elementary School this year. It wrapped up in July with Jeremy Griffiths. He was here for the whole month working with our elementary students. During this time, students were able to build their own take-home robots while exploring coding with Sphero robots. They put their engineering skills to the test with design challenges and stomp rockets, and designed and built original arcade games, among others. And we have some photos to share back here.
Jess, do you know how many students in total were able to participate this year?
I can check that. I think around 25 a week.
Oh, great.
It was full. We had a wait list.
Yeah.
Well received.
Yep.
And we every year make small tweaks, and we have some notes for next year. But it was definitely successful.
Excellent. Thank you.
On another note, the Hudson community came out in full force this past Tuesday for the annual National Night Out hosted by the Hudson Police Department at the Rogers Memorial Library. Members from the school board and SAU staff were in attendance, interacting with community members, and gave away our district-branded crayons to students and young children who stopped by. And lastly, the good news is today was new teacher orientation. It was a really great day. We have about 30 new teachers and 4 new administrators. But a great vibe, successful, and smaller group than usual, which I feel is a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next this evening we have a presentation to the board regarding district assessment data. So here this evening, in addition to Assistant Superintendent Benson, we also have District Curriculum Coordinator Joyce Wise and Dean of Academics Dan Pooler, as well as each of our building principals in attendance. Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you to Dan and Joyce for helping to build this presentation. We're always talking about curriculum and assessment results, and thank you to the principals who are a great partner in all of the work that we do with assessment instruction. So I'm glad that they're here also to hear what we have to share. It's a little bit early for data, as the data is not, it's preliminary right now. It's pretty final, and same thing with last year. So the state still applies their accountability measures to it, meaning they take out students who weren't here for a full year, and that can shift the numbers a little bit. But overall, we feel that the preliminary data is pretty solid, although it is subject to change. What we don't have yet is the 2026 state data. That will be released in the fall, so we'll have that at future meetings. I did want to tell the public and everyone here that the state offers an amazing website for data. It's called iReport, but we also have a link on our district website. So if you go to families and you go to district and state report card, we have buttons that you can go directly to our state database to see our district level data, or even to the school level data. So if you wanted to get more granular, and it's beyond assessment data, you can get school safety data, you can get graduation data, all kinds of measures and metrics. I also wanted to share kind of our purpose for the presentation this year. We're really looking at sharing this preliminary data, and we want to discuss how our students performed, but also something that we haven't done before is really share what is our district goals in these areas and talk about them. And in sharing what is the conversations that principals have with their staff in goal setting, because that's something that happens not only at the district level, but down to the teacher level. So that is something new to this presentation we hope to focus on. We also want to share kind of what are the state's goals for achievement. What is a reasonable measure or proficiency score that the state is aiming for? So those are things we haven't shared in the past, so these are new pieces that we hope to share. And we also want to share what we're doing in terms of action steps for next year in our schools. At the end of the presentation, we'll mention that. And before I dig in, one last thing, I want to talk about how we approach data as a district. So really, the first step in data review is just taking it all in, looking at it. And that's kind of what this presentation is. But I wanted to share with the board and the community what we also do in terms of data. In June, everybody in this room, administrators, we met with iReady, and we did a thorough, in-depth dive of our data for iReady, down to the student cohort, down to the student, down to the school, and we had a lot of great conversations there. Another thing we do as a district, we have monthly MTSS meetings that are run by the assistant principals, and they look at a variety of assessment metrics and attendance data, behavior data. That happens every month in every single school. And another thing that we do in the district is we have professional learning communities. That is a team of professionals who look at 4 questions, basically, and they investigate, did the students know what we tried to teach them? If not, what should we do next? What are we doing for the advanced learners? What are we doing for the struggling learners? What are best practices? Now, that system's been in the district PLCs for a while, but based on feedback from the principals, they really said an ask that we have is that we do really thorough training of PLCs. That is a concept that may not be taught in college for recent graduates, so we are doing a whole new revamp in training this summer. One of the principals had the idea of why don't we boost teacher leadership? So with our consultant who's doing the PLC training, we have 25 teacher coalition members who are doing the training alongside of us so that they can learn about the effective PLC model, and they're going back to their schools and modeling it. So I am very excited, and I believe the entire administration is, that we now have we will have a common way when we meet in PLC teams. How do we look at student results? How do we analyze it deeply? And how do we decide what are the next steps for that student or that group so that we can be successful? And what we know is that PLCs is one of the most effective things you can have in your district in terms of changing assessment data and performance in a positive direction. So that's taken time to build, but we're happy to say that we're on that trajectory.
May I ask
yes,
one question
absolutely.
before you jump into the presentation
Yes.
itself? So you mentioned, and it is called out on the slides,
Yeah.
that we do not yet have the 2026 state data.
Correct.
And so to some degree, we're comparing 2026 Hudson School District data to 2025. Do you have an idea when the 26 state data would be available, and how does that then factor into your process? Because obviously all of you are already analyzing everything and making decisions and looking at cohort data, but how does that then factor in when you get the most current from the state?
I don't think Hudson really mirrors the state almost in every metric. We are very much the average of the entire state, so I don't anticipate it being different. I've seen some early data where some metrics we may be above, so I anticipate we may get it in September, October. It's embargoed, and they let us know when we can release it, and then it'll appear on that state website. But as I go through the presentation, I think that their goals, I anticipate, will stay the same. Our goals will stay the same. So I really feel that we're able to start the school year as we're planning to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this first slide is preliminary ELA data. On the bottom, we have the grades. Grade 11 is a New Hampshire SAS, but for our state, it's the SAT. It is required just like all the others. And then the last bar is our district. Then we have the percent of students. What I wanted to add this year, based on some feedback that I've received in the past, was, like when we look at how proficient do we want our students to be, what is that number we pick? Is it 100? Is it 80? Is it 90? What is it? So according to the state, their short-term goal is to achieve a 67.7%. So that's what their metric is now. That could change, and it could go higher, or it can come down. I'm not quite sure. So I wanted to add that bar this year so that we can all see that. Internally, we as a district, we picked 60% as our target. So we are aiming to have our district get to 60. Once a grade span does at the building level, they are then looking and saying, okay, this cohort already met that, so they're going to go 5 percentage points more So we're looking at trying to get everybody to 60, but those who've already met it, can we keep inching towards that state goal and beyond? And that has been an approach that has worked with teachers. They feel that when we can try to make small gains, that is more doable and attainable than having huge leaps. So that is in our goal setting conversations, it's in our meetings with principals, so everyone's kind of aware of those goals. So with our 60% that we had set, we were able to make that in grade 5 and grade 7, pretty close in grade 3. And down at the bottom, last year's ELA was 55 at the state, so we'll see what that is. But overall, we're really a strong district in ELA, and
That was a state average,
that
is
was
what you're
the
saying.
state. Yep.
Average.
Average, yep. And
Thank you.
ours this year so far is 56. 2 years ago, it was 54. Last year was we had a really strong year. It was 58. It's 56 now. So that's where we are as a district.
And then I just have a question here on these preliminary numbers. This is all students, correct? So including those subtypes like children in special ed or economically disadvantaged. This is every child in the district. This isn't just, okay.
Yes, it's every child in the district who attended our schools for most of the year
Thank you.
who tested. Good question. So I think knowing that we are at or above those averages, to me, is a proud feeling for the district. But we are continuing to make progress in that area.
So now I'd like to speak to the math proficiency data from New Hampshire SAS. And we're reporting the same information as Jessica just explained for our ELA data. As you can see that the state set a target of 52.7% for math. And in 2024, district-wide, we had an average of 39% at the district, and now in 2026, we've gone up to 42%, which matches the state average. So I think that that's definitely something to celebrate. Another thing I'd like to celebrate on this slide is take a look at our grades 3 and 4. Students who have met that state target of 52 points, actually exceeded that state target of 52.7%. And looking at that, I think it's important to note, at our younger grades, meeting that target is so important because as those students move on, they've got a strong math foundation that they're going to be able to build on as they go on throughout the years. And I think we can explain that as we've got an aligned scope and sequence from grades K to Algebra 1. And so I think our focused instructional efforts are really driving these scores and will continue to help us improve our scores over time.
And as a district, we had chosen 50% as our target.
Yes.
So with that, we met that in third and fourth grade. And we're going to continue that as a goal into next year as well.
And so as Jessica had said with ELA, now that grades 3 and 4 have met that target of 50%, then we're going to increase their target another 5%. And the other grades we're going to continue to do, provide the supports that we need to provide in order to get those grade levels to meet our 50% target as a district.
And early data, I can say, as it came out, when we were looking at K to 8, it was up to 46%, which is really a good sign. Math has been an area of struggle, so just to see the changes that we've made at the elementary and middle level, we did see the reward in that and the growth in math, so that was good.
Do you know what the proficiency was in 2025 for the district? If
For
it was
math?
39% in 24, and we see
It was 42, so
Excellent.
now
Okay.
we're the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so next, I'm going to talk about the science, New Hampshire SAS. Unlike the others, the state does not set a target goal for science. That's why there is no blue line on this slide. As a district, we set a goal of 42%. Again, the science assessment is only given in grades 5, 8, and 11. In this past year, we do acknowledge that we have made some great gains since 2024. This is a little bit lower than it was in the previous year.
But we are making, this data does tend to also tie itself with math, and the particular cohorts of 5th, 8th, and 11th grade were much stronger on the ELA side than the math side. Other thing I want to say is that we are doing a lot of work in the district in science. We have one thing that we've been doing is we've been working with a consultant to really change the way we're teaching science, to really go inquiry-based, to get these kids used to some of these higher level questioning techniques. The middle school has been revamping their science curriculum so that it is now spiraling. In the past, it was, you took 6th grade was earth science, 7th grade was life, 8th grade was physical and some chemistry. So they are moving towards more of a spiral, and I can speak from past, in my work, in my CAGs, I actually studied the state science exam, and those schools that spiraled in the middle school actually did better on this exam. So I am hopeful with that change in the middle school that we're going to see some big change in numbers there. We are also continuing our work into the high school with our consultant now and working on some of those same strategies in the past.
Dan, can you explain spiral for a second?
Okay.
Because
So instead of teaching,
not everybody knows.
Sorry. Instead of teaching just earth science in 6th grade, they're going to teach a little bit of earth science, a little bit of life, a little bit of physical. And the same will happen in each grade level. So they're not as separated from earth science when they get to 8th grade. They'll have seen some earth science at each grade level. So it should be more current in their minds as they're taking this 8th grade assessment.
And our school goal for science is still 42%. We're looking to start there. I believe the state will develop targets for science. I've been reading that they're looking to explore that as well, and looking at that test closely as well. It's definitely an area for struggle for the state. If you could look at the state average of 38%, that is where the scores are pretty much ranging.
Is that unique to New Hampshire, or is that a nationwide trend, do you know?
With science tests?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
And or New England even?
I'm not sure.
Can you say that question again?
A trend with science tests.
Is science being kind of the third lagging behind? Is that unique to the state of New Hampshire, or is that regional or even nationwide?
I don't know that other states test science in a standard way, so that would be something I'm curious, I would like to look into.
One other thing on science before we move on is that just to be aware is that the state has changed the grades, so it'll still be 5th and 8th grade this year, but 10th graders will now take the science exam. They have also removed earth science from the high school exam, and in preparation, when they let us know this middle of last year, we started to adjust the 9th grade curriculum because those 9th graders from last year are going to be the first ones to take this test that's been revised this current school year. So we did adjust our earth science because the one thing they did, again, removed earth science as we're teaching earth science. So we really use earth science as a vehicle to teach physical and physical science and physics and chemistry in that, because those are going to be the topics along with biology that they'll have on this state exam.
And the thought that we're thinking is that now that the test would be paired with when the curriculum is taught, there is a chance that there is a higher retention, rather than waiting several years and then taking a science test where students may not even be enrolled in a science class. But even though I think that score for the high school is strong, and the science scores of the high school have been getting better as well.
Dan, you mentioned you were hopeful in kind of revamping that curriculum at Hudson Memorial for spiraling through the science curriculum to see some gains. Typically, how long would that take? Is that seeing those 6th graders get through to 8th grade to see the results? How long does that typically take in the curriculum to see results?
I'm thinking it's going to be 2 to 3 years. They started that change previous to this year. So slowly, as those students they should get exposed to more of those higher level, in-depth questions that you would see on the state assessment, and that spiral will go into place. So again, they won't have had just earth science in 6th grade and not seen it again until when they're taking that test.
Okay, thank you.
The next two slides are new this year. I think it's important to look at not only a proficiency score, which is just one score, but look at context of growth. So, in fact, we have knowledge that the state's accountability system for assessments is looking to go more performance-based in the future, where we're looking at other metrics other than just simply proficiency. How are students growing against their peers within their district? other metrics to look for success. So this is one which you would is looking at growth in Hudson versus the state. So this is in ELA, and it's only available for 4 through 8. So looking at 2 consecutive years of test results, proud to say that Hudson is, the students are growing faster than the state average.
So which 2 years, is this 2025 and 2026?
It would be 24 and 25. So this is kind of old. Again, it's not updated information, but I wanted to bring it to you so that you could see.
Did we not
historically.
use the 26 because they're not available?
They're not
yet?
available yet. So a lot of the data is very slow to come back out in public, but I think that it's a good metric to show that that our growth is strong. Proficiency scores are one, but how are we growing?
So the new conversation to Ms. Benson's point that the state's having and school districts are having, not just looking at achievement proficiency, which is important, but looking at that growth over time.
Mm-hmm.
So both at the Department of Ed level and states, you're going to start to see a shift looking at that growth. How are students growing over their academic career? So that's another platform that districts are looking at.
Can I just ask why you chose 2 years? Like, why not 4 years? So we have like a bigger picture of if there is continued growth. I mean, I don't know if we were up in 23 and then we went down and back up. Like,
This is just how the state website that I mentioned lays it out, so I
Okay.
didn't want to make my own. I didn't know if it was the same test or I didn't want to get involved with messing up the data. So, but I think I wanted to bring it to the attention because that's an important factor. And I also want to share that we got a letter from the state in the spring at Alvern High School saying that you've met, and maybe Dan Fuller can explain. What is it? What did they say?
Yeah, so we got an email at Alvern, and we were recognized, and so it was based on the analysis of SAT scores on our literacy side. We've been identified as showing noticeable success in literacy achievement, so we got that email, and we were asked to fill out a survey to put in our practices at Alvern to share with others that were struggling in that area. So that is, we were recognized as doing a really good job in our reading on the SAT.
And I saw the list of schools. It wasn't long, so I think it's a successful piece to see the work that we've been doing in literacy across the district and at the high school.
Can I ask on the growth side, what counts as a growth? Is it just an increase in like a score? Is it, moving from?
So the state has a
Kinda like-
metrics. It's a mean growth percentile, and they're able to calculate the average for the district, peer against peer. What's the average growth?
So like for a given student, how do they count? If they're counting towards our growth, is it because they've scored like incrementally higher if they've achieved a certain?
So within a school, they would look at all the growth for all of the students. They would take the average of that, and whatever the average growth is, how does that compare to the state? And if it's higher than 50%, then we are growing faster than the state in that area.
Okay. Like in terms of, I still don't think I'm tracking with what that.
If I can get some more information,
Yeah.
maybe when we get more updated information, we can come back to that.
Okay.
So for math, same measure, about the same in grade 4, a little bit slightly higher, but certainly math has been a slower growth, and we know that over time, that it's been a focus area. But again, this is data from a couple years ago. I'm curious to see how it will be with our new scope and sequence and our new plan moving forward with math. And now moving to state assessment is once a year. It really is a summary of a student's learning. It's a snapshot in time. So now we're moving into our district assessment, which is iReady. It is also, it's a benchmark assessment that we give 3 times a year, K through 8, and twice at the high school. It's a measure that we use not only for big picture kind of data review, it's also tied to our curriculum. So every time a student K through 8 and 9 take our assessments, those scores go into our database, and they help teachers decide with their curriculum how to best differentiate in their class. So it works down to the standard level to say in one class that the student may need more help with fractions. So when the teacher is doing differentiation, they're able to look at the data that they get and better design their lesson. So it works with our curriculum, which is why I think a lot of us very much value the iReady assessments, because it's a platform that's not just assessment, it ties to our teaching.
And so this slide, iReady gives us the data to help us to compare to New Hampshire, and they also give us national data. And so I think there's a lot to celebrate here in terms of ELA. As you can see from this chart, our students outperform both groups, New Hampshire and nationally, in grades K, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Grades 9 and 10 do not compare that data to New Hampshire or nationally. So that's why you'll see that we have their performance levels there, but we have no comparison to the state or the nation. In terms of our goals as a district, so as Jessica oh yes, go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask what the percent of students that left hand, what does that metric represent?
Sorry, these are the percentage of students who have scored in the green, which is early, mid, or on grade level.
Or above.
Or above grade level.
Okay.
Early, mid, at, or above grade level?
Yes.
And which, just also to clarify, which assessment was this? The spring assessment, so it's taken 3 times a year, K through 8. Was this based on the spring 2026 iReady assessments?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And so as Jessica had mentioned earlier, our district goal is 60% for ELA. And so as a district, we came close at 57%, but there were grade levels that met the 60% district goal. You can see that grade K scored at 94%, grade 1 was at 66%, grade 2 at 64%, grade 3 at 79%, and grade 5 at 63%. So all of those grades have met our district goals, which is a lot to celebrate. And it's great to see early literacy in grade K, 94% of students scoring in the green. That is something that's going to set our students up for success as they move through the grades.
And sorry, just to ask one more time, the
Sure.
green means proficient, right? We were just
So
asking each other.
sure. So iReady reports it a little bit differently.
Okay.
So the state calls it proficiency, but iReady calls it early, mid, or on or above
Okay.
grade level. So they refer to it as in terms of grade levels.
So the green is the above the grade.
It's
Okay.
yes, it's at least
Okay.
on grade
Thank you
level.
so much.
or above.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is, it's a tough metrics to talk about in comparison with SAS, but as we've been giving these presentations, that is what the language we've been using with the board and with our teachers to help move that forward.
And then when we look at our math data, we can see that our students outperform New Hampshire and national data in grades K, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And again, grades 9 and 10 don't compare data to the state or the nation. For math, as we talked about earlier, our district goal was 50%, and we have several grades that met that 50% district goal. So we had grade K at 87%, grade 1 at 65%, grade 2 at 57%, grade 3 at 65%, grade 4 at 68%, grade 5 at 55%, and grade 6 at 50%.
And as a district, we also, we ended with 55%, which was above that goal. And, to hear teachers looking at the data and seeing it, it's definitely motivating for them to see that the hard work that they're giving every day, with trying new programs, implementation, to see the results has been very powerful.
And something else I'd like to mention is that when iReady comes out with this data, as an administrative team, the principals, the SAU, we all get together and we meet and we talk about what does this data mean. And so what we're seeing in terms of growth is that students who were 2 or more grade levels below are growing faster than our other students. And so that is an indication that our interventions are working. So that is something that I would like to celebrate here. Our next opportunity is to really hone in on what our Tier 1 instruction. That's where we're going to see more growth from those on grade level students.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
That's great to hear that students who are 2 grade levels behind are making greater gains to kind of close that gap. Do you have a breakdown of that?
I do
Show
not
us.
have that with me.
Okay.
We could provide that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be great.
And so what our work with the consultant when we unpacked this data in June, what can we shift in our practice to have students who come ready for grade level content, have them really succeed in math? A lot of that comes with shifting our instruction to student-centered work and digging into differentiation. And we have our math consultants for year 2 implementation. That is a focus area, and he sat with us in our data review. So that is, how can we work with those students who are on level? How can we deepen and accelerate their math performance?
This slide is our iReady reading slide. It shows how students across the district grew from fall to spring of 2026. And of course, we want to see all students in that top left quadrant, which is high performance, high growth. And as you can see, a majority of our grade levels are in that high performance, high growth quadrant. So that's definitely something to celebrate here. What they're measuring this against is the median percent of typical growth achieved differentiated by fall placement levels. So we're looking at a median here, but you can see again, most students in our district, or most grade levels in our district, are in that quadrant. And then for
May I
math,
ask a question?
oh sure.
However, so yes, most of our grades are in the high performance, high growth quadrant, which is great. What accounts for where we look at spring of 2025, the same plot map, some grades jumping pretty drastically to a different quadrant one way or the other. For example, grade 8 significantly going up from high performance, low growth in 25 to where they are, or grade 6 in the converse. What accounts for, and then there were some other sort of minor shifts, but what are some of the things for the board and for the public that could account for some of those bigger jumps that we see in this type of a visual?
So I would say that this is a median percentage for all students, and so it really looks at the entire grade level. I don't have the 2025 data in front of me to see where they. Oops. Sorry.
So some things that we look at and we discuss as admin team, I think, we looked in, reflection on our assessment schedule. What time of year did we give the test?
Yeah.
How did that go? Was it too close to another test? So I know, like, Principal Bowen and I have had that conversation. We actually debrief. How did the assessment schedule work? Was it near field trips? Was it near other things? And we're constantly looking to improve, because I think I had talked to him, and the results for certain students, especially this group, does not match what we've observed in classrooms. So we're always wondering, how can we change that one snapshot in time to make that experience more effective? And we did that at the high school as well. We're looking at when's the best time to test students so that they do give their best. It is a test that requires stamina. Reading and writing, you have to read multiple paragraphs and scroll in New Hampshire SAS and write very long pieces. So that is one variable that we've noticed, and something that we're always working to see, can we move that needle a little bit?
When there's the average for iReady, it's a state average for iReady. Is this just for districts who use iReady?
Yes. So the state is the districts who use iReady, and there's over 100,000 students who do, and nationally also districts who use iReady. we like the state measure because the demographic more matches Hudson rather than nationally. You may have more larger urban districts, so I think the state measure is more of an accurate one.
And so here is the same graph showing for our math data. And you can see many of our grades are in that high performance, high growth quadrant, especially our early grades K to 5. So that's positive to see. You can also see, I know that, you can see that there are some grade levels that are in high performance, low growth. And as we talked about, our students who are 2 or more grade levels below are growing faster than our students who are on grade levels. So those students may be performing high to begin with, and so we are seeing lower growth, but we are going to work on that with our Tier 1 intervention and differentiation.
Meanwhile, on the flip side, if we're high performing, sometimes that growth is a little bit shorter too.
Yes, yeah.
So that's another factor.
And then this slide, I just wanted to call out some of the successes for grades K to 5. And so I pulled out those successes. So some of the information here is from New Hampshire SAS. Some of the information is from iReady. And again, these assessments are just a snapshot in time. We always hope that our students are showing what they know, but as we know, that doesn't always happen. But in these grades, I mean, it's exciting to celebrate. New Hampshire SAS in grade 3 went from 52% to 59% from 2024 to this year. We can also see here that in our math New Hampshire SAS, grades 3 and 4 are something to celebrate. They grew 10 percentage points for grade 3 over that same time frame, and grade 4 grew 2 percentage points. I also highlighted some of the iReady data here. So grades K1 and 5, I pulled out that data for reading. Grade K grew 5 percentage points, grade 1 grew 2 percentage points, and grade 5 grew 11 percentage points. So that's amazing growth. And in terms of math growth, you can see that grade 1 grew 2 percentage points and grade 4 grew 12 percentage points. So again, definitely something that we want to celebrate. We want all students to show growth, but right now at this point in time, this is what we have, and this is what we want to celebrate.
And just to add, I think it was from Principal Tufts. We discussed sometimes it's known that when you implement something new, there's something that's usually called the implementation dip. When you're training in a whole new staff with a brand new resource and a different way of teaching, you typically see a slide back in scores. So it was very nice to see, and all of these actually make gains with the implementation of an entire new curriculum. I would say that is not typical to see that in 1 year. It usually takes a couple. So I would say that we are happy that we went in that direction, and we look forward to a second year of using iReady Mathematics.
A couple of follow-up questions about the iReady growth that are included. So when we say growth, is that the same students in the same school year, so from fall to spring?
No.
And okay.
So it would be spring 25 students. We're more looking at in that grade level, how is the curriculum doing? How is the instructional practice? So regardless of cohort, how is our practice impacting student achievement? And for me, kindergarten is getting stronger.
Okay, can you elaborate on that? So when we say growth in iReady, again, we're so used to, and the public is used to seeing that kind of colored chart for iReady at, below, above grade level by 1 or 2.
So those would be the green.
How does that translate to seeing iReady growth from spring of 2025 to spring of 2026? Can you just break that down?
It shows that in students in kindergarten, from 1 year to the next, more students were in the green.
Still, this is in that green, so
in that green zone,
early at or above green level.
Yes,
great.
Which is very successful. So, and what we as a team read that is a shift in practice and in teacher instruction is really strong, because regardless of who's coming in, they're getting stronger with the students. And we are very impressed with early literacy. We know that's really important, and the teachers are doing a fabulous job with their literacy instruction and math.
Thank you.
Can I ask on this slide for the SAS graphics? Can you speak to why those are 24 to 26, but then the iReady are 25 to 26?
So I was pulling this from our iReady presentation that they gave us in the spring. I could have gone back to 24 if I went back to last year's presentation.
We wanted to just highlight over time. It's hard to look at a point or two go up or down, and that's what we wanted to avoid this year. We wanted to synthesize all of our data and say what are some real celebrations over the past 2 years since we started setting goals. So that is why sometimes it's a 2-year look, sometimes it's a 1, but what rises is something that it was notable enough to put on the slide.
I like celebrating all the students, but I do agree with the other board members' point that I think it would be more consistent and transparent to have, for example, if you're going to reference 24 to 26, have it be for all the points, would be my request.
Thank you. We'll take that feedback as we
Yes.
always do every year and keep getting better.
The next slide shows the success highlights for grades 6 through 8. And this data is based on New Hampshire SAS data. And so from 24 to 26, you can see every grade level at the middle school has shown growth in both ELA and in math. So that's really exciting to see that all grade levels are showing growth on the New Hampshire SAS at the middle school.
And on the next slide, we're going to look at the successes at the high school. So again, New Hampshire SAS for the SAT, you can see that our English language arts is moving in the right direction from 56 to 57 over that 2 years. Math from 24 to 26 has gone up 8 percentage points. Again, we are moving in the right direction. We do realize that that math number is low. We are making a lot of changes, again, at the high school level in math. Specifically, we started them last year, and I'm going to talk about them in the upcoming slide. But that is where we are really focused because we realize that that's an area of growth we need to work on. Again, same with iReady. You can see that over, again, 25 to 26, you can see that growth in both reading and mathematics.
And 1 point growth in ELA is, in my opinion, great when that is already considered a very strong score by the state in literacy with our growth metrics and kind of where they fell in the subsets of the SAT. So being strong and then continuing to make growth is a success.
All right, so this next slide is going to talk about our opportunities for growth. So again, started talking about that improving mathematics achievement district-wide. We will be in year 2 of our implementation of our new curriculum, and that does extend up through Algebra 1 at the high school level. So that is some of the changes that have been occurring that we will see. Again, this is that 2 to 3 because Algebra 1 was the first thing that we started changing at the high school to really bring it to more student-centered, interactive discussions, students inquiry-based learning to really understand what they're talking about and not just doing what the teacher tells them to do and not understanding why they're doing it. So that change started this year. They'll be in year 2, so the teachers, again, needed that start. They're going to get better at it with our second year of implementation across the district. We're continuing with that iReady professional development to make sure that all our teachers are on board and they're continuing to grow. It's exciting that even iReady was able to offer some professional development to other areas. Our special education case managers, our paraprofessionals are going to get training on how to make sure that it's a productive struggle. So that's all positives. That's going to help in the math classroom. So as a teacher, and I know this, being there, your first goal always is to, when a student is struggling, is to jump in and help. And that is really the reverse of what we want to teach now, is that we need our teachers, our students, to struggle a little bit and guide them along the way so that they are doing their own thinking, because when they're doing their own thinking, it's actually having a larger impact on their understanding of mathematics. And that's a major shift in the way that we used to teach mathematics in the district. So again, we're focusing on number sense, algebraic thinking, problem-solving skills. We're going to continue to strengthen those intervention blocks. And even at middle school and the high school level, within that 80-minute time block at the high school, there is time in these math programs that we're using to work on that intervention time so that we can get to those struggling learners in our classes.
And those who are above level. So really
Exactly.
finding time to differentiate for the student So just providing professional development on that within the system and using that iReady data to do so.
And again, we're looking at analyzing that SAT performance at the high school level, and that's where our PLCs are going to come in big time, because again, math isn't just happening in the math classroom, it's happening all across the building. So in this newer PLC model where we are looking at data and these, the teachers are involved, they can be really looking at what skills in my class can I help improve mathematics scores or a student's math ability by, just looking at those and working with the student on it. We are continuing to raise science achievement. We're continuing with that inquiry-based instruction. We are continuing with our consultant. Again, it has moved up to the high school level. That was something we learned last year, and we're continuing with another training, which is our rigor training, increasing rigor in the classrooms with our leaders and helping teachers increase that rigor. So in that training last year, it was recognized that we needed to really work on the science to increase the rigor in the science classrooms at the high school. So we were able to extend through the grant our consultant to come up. So as we had to put in a new freshman science class by the state rule of the Ed 306s, we changed it back to physical science. Our consultant is working with our freshman science teachers to really build a robust curriculum that targets student inquiry and student-centered learning, which will be a big shift in that. And the hope is in the future to move that forward into biology as well, so that, again, we'll slowly move through the different sciences with this new way of teaching.
And nice to see that the science teachers at the high school wanted this training
Yes.
and welcomed it. That always makes it extra effective when
Yes.
you have that buy-in.
And as our students from the middle school get to the high school, it's not going to be such a heavy lift for them to experience this inquiry-based learning, because we're doing that in science from K to 8. So now just moving it up into the high school, we're just going to reap the benefits of that.
May I ask a question there on science?
Yes.
So we've heard quite a bit about the high school science.
Yep.
And then we heard a couple of minutes ago about the spiral and revamping at Hudson Memorial. How do you go about raising science achievement at our elementary schools when, as we've always heard, at least my time on the board, it's so hard to get those science and social studies into the elementary classrooms, and it's not every day, and understanding that there are different factors there at play in the elementary schools. So how do you raise science achievement
Sure.
at the elementary school?
We did a deep dive of the science scores at the elementary. There are some, we looked at each classroom in 5th grade, there are some that are in the high 40s to 50s. So we are actually doing well in many pockets in science at elementary. We teach science or social studies every day. So that's a new change to our district. What we have are science units that are tied exactly to grade level science standards, which our consultant that we've hired through the grant has helped work with the teachers. We use mystery science for the phenomena and different experiments, and they work that into their units, which Joyce, as curriculum coordinator, has worked with all of the elementary teachers. So at this point, and it's just now, those are created and have been developed. Now we just have to consistently, with confidence, deliver those to students. So I feel like science at the elementary level is in a very good place. At the middle school, we have gone to Open SciEd, which is a free and open resource for science that the consultant has been working with. And we are about 80% there. She'll continue working with Joyce, with Keith, and the science teachers next year. So I wouldn't, those are still in the works of being completed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the other piece here for growth is we're going to maintain our focus on our K through 12 curriculum alignment, keep working on that, making sure to support that sustained student growth. All right, AP results. I'm really excited about these. So AP, typical what I reported last year. This year, if you look, this first slide shows from 2022 all the way to 2026. These are the students that score a 3 or above, which is considered proficient in that AP course. So last year we had 77. I'm happy to report 89% of the students that took the test scored a 3 or above this year on the AP exams. So that is a huge success in our AP programs, that it is growing. And then we're going to delve deeper into some of the areas. So just for information for you, you can see the number of students that took AP, we had 103 students that took, and some of these students were taking, in that number is students that took APs that we did not offer as courses. So there's about, I'd say, 100 students that took the courses we offer, but like courses we don't offer, like macroeconomics, if they want to take it, we offer that as a session for our students. Number of exams has gone up. We gave 237 different exams. So again, students taking multiple exams. Of those scoring three plus, 92 of the students out of that 103 got a 3+ on something. So again, some students, took one, some students took 5 AP exams over that time period. And again, the percent of AP students scoring 3+, I already reported that, 89. So we are on a good trend with our AP courses. This next slide is showing tests taken last year and the percent proficient in that class to this year. Again, lots of growth going on here. So if I'm looking across the board, I'm going to highlight a couple things. Pre-calculus, this year, 100% of the students had a score proficient 3 or above. The same in our calculus. 100% of the students that took our AP calculus exam scored proficient on that exam. Another thing I'd like to highlight, because statistics has historically struggled in the AP because it is a very different type of exam. We had a huge growth. We went up to, I can't read the number,
It was about
55%, and we were way down at like 12 last year.
Yeah,
So we are
14%
making
last
growth in the right direction. I will report now that the AP has just gone through stats, is changing its testing this year. And the teacher has gone to specific training to make sure that he is ready to meet the changes. Stats, I was actually the first teacher at Alvern 27 years ago to teach AP stats, and it had looked the same. All that is finally come up for review and changed now. So we're looking at a big shift in what that is going to happen this year. Again, bio and chemistry are offered every other year, so that's why it says underneath this is compared to the year before. And you can see all our others. We have a lot of great successes. I'm also going to report a couple things here because it's not on this slide, but we've been reporting against the state, and I want to point out some things. So as compared to the state, for calculus, state average on the calculus exam is only 72% of the students proficient. We are 100%. Chemistry tends to have an average of 85.6. Again, we scored higher in chemistry. We scored higher than the state in English Lit. With the state was 86.1. We are higher than that on ours. Pre-calc, the state average is higher than most other tests. It's 94, but again, 100% this year. Psychology, even though it is down from the previous year, we did score higher in psychology than the previous than the state. State only scores 75.8% proficient on the AP psychology exam, and we are up above 90. U.S. Gov, the state only scores at 90.6 as their average. So U.S. government, we are higher in U.S. Gov, and we are higher in the U.S. history. The state only scores an average of 83.1%. So we have a lot of success in the APs. I know we want this in our APs. These are our students that are really delving into that hope to get some of these courses to count for their college. So we're really working on that instruction in those levels to get those students really ready for this exam.
That's all we have.
Are there further questions or comments from the board? Dan?
Thank you, Chairwoman Diane. I've actually got several questions about what we've just experienced. I guess I'll start off with a rather basic one. I'm looking at grade 6, and this was a question I had last year. Why is there a tail off in 6th grade when it comes to SAS scores versus, say, 5th grade or 4th grade or even 7th and 8th grade? The answer that I got last year was that it was involving more abstract thinking and the concepts don't come as easy. We're still at 48% across the board as far as grade 6 is concerned. What are we doing in the lower levels to properly prepare these 6th graders for middle school success in 6th grade?
I think what we're doing now is we have a common scope and sequence for math that we just started this year, this past year. From kindergarten on, we know until all students kind of go through a couple of years, there will be gaps. When they go from one level to another, over time, those gaps will shrink as we have common aligned, vertically aligned math curriculum over time.
Okay. The second question I have is, our science scores in SAS went from 41% in 2025 to 38% this year. With a consultant, can someone please shed a little bit of light on why? Because one would think that with a consultant, that's kind of helping us with our curriculum, that should have, in theory, gone up.
Our consultant was heavily focused on the elementary, which we were able to finish all of those units.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the work was at the middle school, and really one day was spent with the high school. So I think we look at elementary, 40%, that was relatively strong. As I said, when we looked at those 5th grade teachers and we looked at classrooms, we had some in the high 40s. So I do think that the consultant and the expertise and teaching teachers is something that is definitely helping the district when she is able to fully do the work and the training with them.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate the answer. I'm just finding it a little bit difficult to wrap my head around about kind of like how that kind of, just trying to figure out how, here we are looking at investing that sort of time and resources and money, and yet we're still seeing a decline in the test scores. I'm finding that a little bit hard to swallow at this point. A comment that came up earlier about a question about what states test for science. All 50 states test for science. Not annually, but all 50 states do, and I can send you that data that I found on that. I just want to point that out. And when it comes to the scope and sequence, what does that timeline look like? What year are we in? Is this like part of the strategic plan? How does this tie into the strategic plan? So I guess the question I'm asking is this: how long do we? Let me reframe that. My apologies. Let me reframe that. How long do we continue to, or plan to continue using the scope and sequence that we have right now?
We just started it last year, and we are going to commit for 5 years to continuing to have students have that vertically aligned scope and sequence of math, so that we can avoid having gaps or different resources, and have students not getting equitable math instruction across the grade level.
Okay.
And I think if we look at the early learning center and early elementary, where there's been more focused attention to the standards and teaching them to the rigor, that's where we're seeing positive results.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of seize on that for a second, if I may. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit befuddled by that statement. It's like we're holding the elementary students a little bit closer to the standards, but not the middle school and high school students? Please clarify.
When they enter kindergarten, that's their first experience in education, and as a district, we are holding to a resource which is of high quality and standards aligned, and we're doing it with intentionality, regularly, consistently, so we're guaranteeing that everybody is getting a common instructional process.
Okay.
And our students who are coming at the earlier levels, they've had no other instruction but the high quality instruction we're giving them. So that is why we know that as we provide high quality, rigorous instruction, the students are growing at higher levels.
Okay.
They have fewer gaps because we're closing them.
Okay. And I do want to applaud the high school students on their achievements on the AP exam. As someone who took the ELA exam back in 2000, I think I scored a 3 as well. I'm not tooting my own horn. That's an incredible accomplishment. I do want to end on a high note. Thank you for answering my questions, Mrs. Benson. I'm sorry, but I do want to say that the high school achievement scores on the SAT and on the AP, that definitely needs to be applauded very, very well. I looked at that stat and I was like, that's amazing. It really, really is. And I speak as someone who not only took an AP exam, but also has that 20 years of experience in education. Thank you for answering my questions.
May I ask a follow-up actually to one of Dan's? And I'll say that it's something that we have talked about in my time on this board. It does seem that we see the results throughout elementary school, and then students get to 6th grade, and there is a change, I will simply say, a change in their proficiency. And so I think the question that the board in my time has asked, and so I guess I'll ask it in a different way tonight. What do you folks need, or what does the administration need? What do those students need? Is it the change to middle school? Is it because I don't like the narrative of students get to middle school and they struggle.
Yeah.
But why? And so I guess my question sitting here each year, and I don't like to cherry pick numbers, and I don't like it's just one number. Yeah. But it does seem as though each year we see where they get to in 5th grade, and then we look at that same cohort model, and I know all of you are looking at that. And so my question in this position is, then what can we do? What do you need? Is it more interventions? Is it some additional, I don't know, class on how to transition and become a middle school student? I don't know what that looks like. And I guess because even, again, they were at 62% in grade 5, and now I see 48, and just year over year. But I don't like the narrative of, that's middle school. And not that any of you are saying that, to be clear, it's the public. So then how do we tackle that? That's my question.
Yes, I think there's a couple of things. One, I think for middle school, moving that block of math time and working to see how can we make that most effective. How are we leaning into instruction and student thinking, and avoiding some other things that may take up some time. So that is one thing that we're looking, and that's something that we have resources for. We have a consultant helping us work with our teachers. That's one. And I understand the cohort model and how it has gone down, and this isn't an excuse, but I think that mirrors state middle school scores, and iReady and SAS. We're not alone in that experience. But even so, where I am feeling hopeful is that if we're not following cohorts and we just look across time, we are making gains in 6th grade math over time. So to me, when it's not connected to a cohort and we continue to gain, that shows me that we're making curriculum gains, despite the students and where they're coming from and their levels.
Can I follow up on something you just said? But if it's not specific to Hudson, then again, what can we do here in Hudson to address, again, is it just that it is such a monumental shift that students go from this 5th grade where they've been in the same building for 4 years, and now it's, I don't know, but that tells what I'm hearing is, part of me says, great, it's not Hudson specific, so I hope everyone at home watching hears that. So, but 2, then do students struggle when they get to middle school for XYZ reason? And what can we do? What resources do you all need to try and address that?
I can think of one thing that teachers have shared with me from the middle school. I think support with stamina from home. I think whether it's ELA or math, we have a block of time and it's limited. So in order to practice math computation or facts at home, that's not something we have time really built in for that deep thinking. From an ELA perspective, when there's an assignment at home to read the text, having the students do that so that they're coming to class so that they can dig into that rigorous work. That is something that the teachers have shared with me as a need, and how can we get parents to support that? I think we're very reasonable with what we ask to be completed at home, but that would help teachers, dig into the rigor of the lesson rather than having to slow down and wait.
Because we all, at the end of the day, we all have a responsibility here, right? Mm-hmm. Those of you that are in the classrooms, those of us that are parents helping our children, and then the children showing up and taking these tests and doing their best, right? We all have some degree of a responsibility in this. And I think sometimes the public just looks at the numbers and only highlights one factor in what really is like this whole triangle model, that we all have a role here. I think that's what you've just said there, Jess, is actually super important, and I hope that people have heard that there is some degree of support that is needed at home for that to translate to the classroom. That's really
Thank you.
important.
And
Yeah.
I know at the middle school, the department head has been sending out articles in Keith's newsletter explaining that. You know, as a partner in education, it's very important that, you know, students are completing this reading so that they're able to do the next lesson. So I appreciate the support there.
Yeah.
So I just had a question. You mentioned that you're working with a consultant, working with teachers. Is this the science consultant, or is this one that the district has retained to help specifically for ELA or math?
So for our math program, that we're working directly with iReady, with the company. So there's consultants that we work for with that's helped us implement our math curriculum. For science, the consultant is specifically training us on how to do hands-on inquiry-based science across the areas. Like I said, it was mostly elementary training that we've done since I've started, but now we're getting deeper into the middle and starting in the high school.
And as a new board member, I don't know if this conversation has already taken place, but has the district ever considered working with a neutral third-party consultant for, say, ELA? Like, I think, and I'm just throwing this person out there, we don't certainly have to use her, but for example, I believe it's one of the authors of the Letters program is a consultant and can look at things like Tier 1, Tier 2. She can find if it's a certain school, if it's a certain grade, and sort of give curriculum, recommendations. I mean, I'm not in this field, but have we ever considered doing something like this to sort of find you?
Actually, we're probably thinking of the same person.
Yeah.
We've also looked, I think you heard me talk last year about implementing Think SRSD as a writing strategy, which can be applied in any classroom. So a lot of the presenters from Letters are also independent consultants for that strategy. So that is something that we have, we've done training on, and it's definitely in our mind as somebody to bring into the district. But we can only do so much training at once. So that is something that we are considering in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's one idea. The second thing, I do think everyone has a responsibility to do their part for their students. I think I saw on that, and I'm glad you mentioned it. I think it was the I Achieve on the New Hampshire DOE website. I think it said Hudson, 17% of our students have at least one disability. I think that was the number. That includes kids on child fine, so kids who don't even attend public school. And I guess my point is that I know you mentioned that we are closing the proverbial gap, but without seeing the data, it's hard to say, hard to see what you see, right? And I know you're going to present that at a later date. But my point is helping parents with, parents helping their kids with homework. I speak from a little bit of experience here. If a child does have a deficit or a disability, right, it's a little bit different than simply helping them because, parents also are not, reading interventionists or reading specialists. But I just wanted to touch on that point too, that everyone does have a responsibility. But I'm curious to see the breakdown of the scores, for different subtypes and per school. Mm-hmm. I feel like last year this was a bit bulkier of a presentation for iReady. It's a little bit more slimmed down this year. That's correct.
I can do whatever the board wants. I know that was a lot of slides. We wanted to do more of an analysis. When it comes to subgroups in schools, on the website for the state, it definitely goes down for every demographic, and you can look for school, per district.
And I do want to also echo your sentiment, Dan, about the AP scores. That was really great to hear.
Any other comments or questions from the board? I appreciate everyone's time tonight. I appreciate the time that has gone into this. I know that it is not just this one presentation this evening, so sincerely appreciate the time to analyze this, to put this all together. And I know that it is an ongoing process, so thank you very much.
Ms. Dion, before we close out, I just wanted to say a couple of remarks myself.
Mm-hmm.
There has been, some different points, whether it's in the budget cycle or in different times where certain pieces of data have been highlighted and not a complete picture.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also important to note that in mathematics, 61% of our students were at proficient. Grade 4 was 54%. We are making gains in many areas. We still have work to do, but it is due in large part because of Ms. Benson, the team of Ms. Wise, Mr. Pooler, the administrators and teachers. You saw some iReady scores tonight that have been some of the highest that they've ever been. So I would caution some board members tonight to look at the complete picture of the assessment data and not pick and choose what assessment data we're looking at. That's my final comment.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, everyone. Thank you tonight for your time tonight. I'm going to give him a moment.
Thank you.
Nope, no, thank you. So next within, apologize, this agenda is out of order. So within new business, we're going to discuss budget drivers. Business Administrator Jenny Graves, I apologize, sorry, my copy was an older version. So we're going to discuss some key factors that will be discussed as part of the budget process.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Dion. So the memo included in the packet this evening is a follow-up to the debrief on the FY27 budget process that the board held a few meetings ago. And one of the discussion points from that meeting was how could the administration get some data to the board earlier than years past that could help shape a conversation to see if the board would like to task the administration with setting a ceiling or a quote-unquote like a maximum percentage increase as we look to develop the FY28 budget. So what I've delivered this evening is what I'm calling a first look. This is very early in the budget development process to bring something to the school board, but I wanted to be able to bring something of value that we could really kick off the conversation. And so this evening, I'm not looking for any decision from the board. I'm just looking to introduce you to it, answer any questions, and take any takeaways. So the items that I thought would be important to incorporate in this first look would be our biggest bites of the apple with contractual requirements. So on the second page of the document, I will step through the itemization of what I included, but this is not a full list of every single contract the district has, for example. These are really just the biggest ones to kind of help shape our conversation this evening. Over the summer, we always do the roll from fiscal year to fiscal year, which includes a lot of data entry points for our internal finance and HR teams, especially in the area of salary and benefits. Even more so this year because we have our new software program, which we are very excited about. And so that's also something that's happening over the next few weeks as we finish up the summer. So some of the items that were included, the big one being this is talking about the general fund, which is essentially the largest portion of the budget. It's also the portion of the budget that impacts the local tax base the greatest. And so of note, this memo does not include things such as our grants, which is a one-for-one expense to reimbursement model from various sources. It doesn't include our food service fund, and it does not include our revolving funds, which are typically some of our smaller CTE funds for some of those programs. So looking at the general fund, I broke out contractual salaries from a base salary, the employer portion of the FICA expense, and the New Hampshire State Retirement, and have provided an estimate for the minimum amount to clear what we are required to do based on our existing collective bargaining agreements. You will note at the bottom in the footnote, I do not have the Hudson Federation of Teachers in the calculation. That contract is currently up for negotiation and would, if an agreement was reached, be required to be its own warrant article on the ballot this year. The second bullet point, contractual benefits. We've got medical, dental, and an NHRS reduction. I put the words multiplier in here. I'm estimating a 10%, that's typically what we do for a cost increase for medical, and a 5% for dental. If you'll recall last year with school care, our rates typically come out at the end of November timeframe, and I did a memo to the board at that time when we received the final rates, and we did a reduction of about $400,000 because they came in a little bit lower than what we had projected. I would be seeking to do the same method this year when those rates become available, but because the budget is developed and distributed prior to those rates being set, I do have to pick a multiplier to put in there. The NHRS reduction, I want to be clear for the board and the public this evening, that is not by way of the Hudson School District. The state of New Hampshire sets the contribution rates that employers are required to contribute, and for the upcoming 2-year budget cycle, they have reduced the employer cost share for both the staff and teachers. And so that is not a local decision, that is something that's driven by the state. And so I'm anticipating some savings there, which is why you're seeing it as a negative reduction. Contractual student services, we really have 2 big buckets there that impact us annually. We have our regular ed transportation, our special ed transportation, and then we also have special ed tuition. I am not anticipating an ask as part of where I looked at our actuals to our new contract for regular ed. I'm not anticipating an ask in that area for FY28. I believe we'll be able to hold stable and fund that program at the 24 buses. For transportation for special education, I did bump that up slightly. And so again, looking at actuals and looking at needs. I did leave in italicized a font the special ed tuition. I'll be working with Ms. Borge over the next couple of weeks to fine tune that. And so I would anticipate a value being entered in that box for the presentation on September 8th, whether that is an increase or decrease. So all in all, in the blue, you're going to see the final calculation that I'm at today, which would be to clear these buckets of contractual increases. It would be a percentage increase just over 2%. And again, this doesn't take into account any work done by our building principals per the budget timeline that we've put out as a draft. They still have additional time to work on and fine tune those budgets.
Yeah, sorry, can I ask on the transportation regular ed line? I thought I remembered in what we signed with the bus company, we're increasing each year. Is that?
Yep,
that's not reflected.
So I did prepare for that question because I went back to that presentation when I was developing this. Our cost for the contract has gone up, but what we've had in our budget coffers it's sufficient to absorb that increase, if that makes sense. So the presentation in the fall was pricing the cost that the vendor is increasing for the service, not necessarily a reflection of what our budget was going to increase.
Okay, so our FY27 budgeted amount is already
sufficient to
for
cover
that.
The increase, yes.
Okay.
Part of the special education transportation, that $125,000, I had noticed that some special education transportation charges hit the regular ed transportation line, and so when I completed that audit, prior to looking at that, it kind of inflated those regular ed actuals, if that makes sense. And so that's going to be a realignment that we do as this part of this budget season.
So that kind of answers the question I was going to ask next, is why our budgeted amount kind of already accounted for an increase, but it sounds like some of that is alignment with just how those charges are have been previously accounted for? Okay.
Are there any comments regarding the memo from the board? Any initial direction as it relates to the budget process? Any feedback ahead of the September 8th meeting?
I guess just to kind of maybe just summarize that my understanding is correct. So this breakout is showing us from like a contractual standpoint. I mean, we could certainly, I guess, make adjustments in other areas of the budget to kind of counter this. But for the most part, kind of looking at next year's budget to support these, we'd be looking at a need of an increase of 2%. Again, unless we took other action. But if we're potentially going down the path of trying to give some guidance on what we would look to see in almost like a cap of budget increase, kind of our floor, if you will, is essentially 2%. Again, unless we take other action to bring that down, but just kind of this straightforward analysis, a starting point for a floor is kind of around 2%.
Yes.
Okay.
And I would just note those multipliers, I mean, the board could give different directive on that if you wanted to say 7.5% or go the other way, 12. I mean, it's the board's discretion. I just wanted to give a realistic historical base point of what we typically do. And we also are prepared, should the board seek to give the administration a ceiling on the budget. I have developed a what I'm calling a wish list template, so that if budget owners have hit whatever their threshold might be, they can continue to add items on kind of a secondary sheet that our team can track and also provide to the school board should they ask, because this idea of a ceiling, if the board tasks us with that, would be a new concept for our team.
To confirm, Jenny, you said historically, so within each of our budgets, historically for medical and dental, it was approximately 10 and 5% that was built into the budget historically each year.
Yes.
An increase.
Yes, and prior to last budget season,
Yes.
we never, it was never sought to take an adjustment when the rates came. So as you know, that's a new
Yes, that was also
process.
a concept. Yep. Any further feedback from the board? So I'll just note, even seeing this, I think that this is unbelievably helpful, Jenny. So I would just like to start by saying thank you for coming forward and having this as a concept and pitching to show this to the public and to the board. And the reason that I say that is I think, again, the public sometimes wonders, well, why does your budget need to increase? Why is, instead of, and certainly we'll get to the point of looking at each line item, that's what we know is going to occur. But at the highest of levels, I think seeing this together, that again, to use kind of Steve's phrase, that like baseline, right now the starting point is a 2% increase. And these are very specific contractual reasons why. I think that this is very helpful for the board, and I would like to think that something like this is hopefully very helpful for the public. So I just would like to say that.
Thank you.
Great.
Then within new business, we have a budget transfer request.
Thank you, Ms. Dion. So this is the budget transfer from the presentation last month from Mr. Jamrog relative to one of the LMS pilots that we're doing, Canvas, and finding the funds to do that. That would be generated from a technology equipment replacement line and moving into a software line to cover that expense.
Make a motion to approve the budget transfer.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have two nominations.
Make a motion to approve the nominations in today's board packet.
Second.
Discussion on the nominations for Auburn High School and Hudson Memorial Fall Sports. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to old business tonight, we have a second look at the FY28 budget timeline. Would you like to, Jenny?
Thank you, Ms. Dion. So really only 3 changes to the document, so I'll call your attention to page 2. On 10-8, when the budget books are available, we added the language of preliminary budget is what's available. We also adjusted the order of the presentations based on some notes Mr. Moulis had taken during my absence. And then we put in some proposed dates for those meetings for the school board. So this evening, really our goal is if you could provide feedback on the dates. And then for the budget committee, I mirrored the sequence of the presentations, but left those dates as to be determined.
I have some initial thoughts and feedback. So we have a meeting, our 2 October currently scheduled meetings are October 5th, which of course is before the preliminary budget is created and provided. We do, however, have a meeting on Monday, October 19th. I noticed, so typically we end up using that second pre-established, I'll call it, meeting in October as a budget meeting. And so I guess my question became, could we, instead of, unless of course we need the 26th to wrap up, could we instead have October 13th, 14th, 19th, and 21st? I mean, it's already on the calendar for the 19th. Would that?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine from my seat. Yes.
Okay. In doing so, I guess my thought again was it potentially actually shifts the completion of the budget up by almost a week, 5 days, 5 business days, from the 26th till the 21st. And so I don't know, Jenny, if some of these other dates would then shift November 9th, November 2nd. I'll defer to you. But if we were able to wrap up instead on the 21st instead of the 26th, so I wanted to propose that for the group. And then the other, I just would like to call attention. I know that we had talked about Thursday, October 8th as preliminarily getting the preliminary budget. Let me say that again. For the school board and the budget committee. I just would like to publicly say it will be critically important if we're going to have these as our meeting dates for the budget to get those budget books on the 8th. And the reason, the 9th is no school, and then Monday, the 12th is a holiday. And so we would be getting them on Thursday, and our first meeting is the following Tuesday, which we all have a responsibility to review the budget and be prepared. But I just, that, again, if you feel that that is sufficient, Jenny, then I just wanted to call attention for this board that that weekend, we would effectively have that one weekend to have the budget, which typically is what it is as well. But I just want to call attention to that since we had the Friday as no school and the Monday holiday.
And certainly, Ms. Dion, if the books are available early, we're happy to distribute early. We are working with a printer this year, which is new. And so they've kind of given us a 3-day business range of a delivery date. And I went conservative to make sure that whatever date we are publicly adhering to is adhered to. So there's certainly a great chance that they will possibly be ready a couple business days early.
So my question for the board becomes, is everyone available Tuesday, October 13th, Wednesday, October 14th, and Wednesday, October 21st, knowing that we already had Monday, October 19th scheduled? So adding the 13th, 14th, and 21st.
I can make it happen.
Yep.
Okay. So
Ms.
let's-
Dion, just to clarify, so the October 21 will be, the October 19th will be facilities, special ed default and warrant articles, and the
Yes.
21st would be the
the
wrap-up
wrap
meeting.
up. Exactly.
Okay.
So I would ask, could we see this one more time in old business on the September 8th meeting? Let's go ahead and make those changes in the dates there. Jenny, would you mind just looking if anything in that early November timeframe would or could shift with the wrap up on the 21st instead?
Yes.
Could we just see this one more time on the 8th?
Yes, I would anticipate if the board is moving up their wrap-up date, that would slide my change order being ready for the budget committee earlier to mirror that.
Great.
My only question is, I don't have my school board calendar in front of me. Is that October 19th meeting the final meeting in October?
Yes.
Okay, so then that 11/9 date of presenting the warrant articles would stay, because that would be the next available school board meeting.
I actually, and I apologize, I had a note here to ask. So typically, we have historically presented the warrant articles throughout the budget. I mean, we would be seeing them, I guess I was a little bit, can you clarify the language? Because we would
Sure.
see warrant articles on the 19th of October as well, with that facility special education default and warrant articles. Typically in our budget binders, Jenny, there's at the very least an initial draft language of warrant articles. Certainly though, we continue to look at them throughout November and December and make any refinements.
Correct.
But I just wanted to clarify the language
Yeah,
there.
let me adjust that language.
Okay.
Would you anticipate that on that meeting in October, you would be, taking a motion to make changes, or would that really be your first look and your first actionable night might be that November evening?
Typically, we, again, just historically, we've viewed the October, let's call it the last budget meeting, so in this case, October 19th, changes to the budget being made, motions. Quite often, Jenny, that entails pulling items out of the budget and then request of the board to at least see as a potential warrant article, and then they continue on and have been added to anything else related to operating budget and contracts.
Okay, I will adjust my descriptor then on the 9th.
Yep.
So that it doesn't have that first draft language, but still makes it clear that the board will be reviewing these each meeting until they're finalized.
Yes, that would be good.
Okay.
Is there any other feedback from the board? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm, so I see we're referring to it as preliminary budget. I know when we last spoke, we talked about considering it like a draft, potentially having even like a watermark. I'm not as concerned with kind of the naming of it, but I thought a watermark or something kind of with the draft to make it clear that that document represented, a draft or something that wasn't final. That was one thing that I was strongly in favor of, because I like the idea of getting information shared earlier on, but just my concern that I had voiced was I don't want that to be taken as that's now the budget moving forward and we're just entering our process of actually refining it.
Would you like to see that language, preliminary budget, like big and bold on the title of the budget book? Because what I'm envisioning, right, because we're going to use our ClearGov software and go to a printer, those books are going to be like a memorialized point in time, and then we will go to a change order document for the rest of the budget season. So I was leaning less towards like watermarking draft on all of the pages in the book and maybe just doing it in the title. But I'm gonna do whatever the board, if you want me to do a watermark that says draft, like gently in the background, we can definitely do that.
Or potentially even in the footer. I guess I'm just,
Footer? Okay.
it's such a large
Yep.
I feel like it being consistently present eliminates the ability of kind of even taking
Sure.
portions of it and then
Yep.
that being treated as, so that just kind of helps us clearly delineate anything that's in that part is part of that preliminary draft versus what we find, our final version that comes out.
Yes, that sounds great. Yep.
Any further feedback from the board regarding the FY28 budget timeline? Okay. So this evening we have 3 policies for first reading, BBAA, BEDG, and then JICK. I will note and then turn it over to Dan. JICK, there is a requested waiver of the second reading, and if you could speak further to each of them, Dan, that would be helpful.
Yep, absolutely. So the first policy, BBAA, School Board Member Authority. There's revisions that are complete throughout this policy. It removes the redundancies in place of mild conflicts with other policies, and the change in language better reflects the New Hampshire relating to school board meetings. So those are the revisions throughout that policy. The second policy, BEDG, is meeting minutes. And there's some minor corrections from the July 2025 revisions. It's reflected in the passage of House Bill 265, which added RSA 91A:2, Roman numeral 2, with the requirement that all minutes include the start, end times for meetings, along with the name of the person who produced the minutes. So those are the two relative to board member authority and board meeting minutes. The third policy, as Ms. Dion mentioned, is a significant rewrite. It's policy JICK, which is pupil safety and violence prevention. This particular policy notes a few items that I'm going to call out here. Just bear with me for one moment. And those notes are included. It's a revision that includes changes to the definitions for bullying and reporting and investigative procedures that are mandated by law that went into effect in 2026 with the passage of House Bill 131. It's a complete rewrite of this policy, and the reason that I'm asking for the waiving of second reading is this legislation went into effect August 1st for the start of the new school year. So similar to other school districts right now, along with Hudson, it is recommended very strongly from New Hampshire School Boards Association that you waive the second reading because it's such a significant rewrite and changes to ensure that we update our handbooks and we update it in all the appropriate places.
Questions or feedback from the board? Heather?
I have a question on policy BBAA, the School Board Member Authority. Was this change driven by the New Hampshire School Board, or it wasn't a bill or a law?
So BBAA, which is School Board Member Authority, is relative to revisions that occurred that was revised in 2025. It was to completely remove redundancies and in places where there was conflict with other policies. It was to change the language to better reflect New Hampshire related to school board meetings. So that's where the rewrites come in.
Okay.
With the board member authority.
So the only question I have is for this policy, and it's the line that was added that says no legal action can be taken except as a duly warned meeting. What additional purpose does that serve? It spells out that I agree with the change in the policy. It just kind of reiterates that we can't act alone, to have individual authority, but what purpose does the addition of no legal action can be taken serve?
So I believe the interpretation there is to, one, make sure you have a quorum of the board, that decisions are happening with the quorum of the board, and then when it is a duly regular meeting or a special meeting, that those decisions shall be binding unless rescinded by the board. So it really wants to specify that the board is a collective group and that the actions made by the board happen within a quorum of a meeting.
Okay. Could we amend that then to explicitly say that basically no individual, board member may take legal action on behalf of the board or district unless authorized by the board or as a quorum or something along those lines? Is it?
I always get a little hesitant with that, Heather, just because these revisions we get from New Hampshire School Boards Association, so I would be a little hesitant to make the change without consulting a little bit more with New Hampshire School Boards Association because they typically have a purpose of why they want it worded a particular way. So
I think
I'd be a little unsure of that from my vantage point, but again, it's a board decision.
I think also, Heather, in my opinion, the first couple of paragraphs, specifically the first one, pretty specifically talks about that each of us as an individual school board member is limited to deliberating within the context of a meeting. So I think that certainly no legal action, that line that you were questioning, I think is also covered that we as individual board members cannot take legal action, because up above, as it says, the authority of individual school board members is limited to. So I think it's covered there. I mean, we could certainly, I suppose, clarify with NHSBA though ahead of the September 8th meeting.
I'd appreciate that. I know there was a couple neighboring districts that did not adopt to that change when they just revised their policy in May. Wyndham was one of them.
Which district was it?
Wyndham, it was just clarification, that's all. That was the only question I had on any of the policies. Thank you.
So with that said, there was a request, as Dan explained, the changes within policy JICK and the reason for the requested waiver of second reading. So does anyone want to
Make a motion to
the
approve
motion?
policy JICK and waive the second reading.
Second.
Any discussion on adopting policy JICK as revised?
Can I ask from a district standpoint, are we prepared in short order to carry out what is required in the policy? Like the training, for like staff volunteers, there's a number of things outlined in the policy.
So we are well underway to starting that process. As part of my report, which we'll talk about in a little bit, our administrative meetings were last week. With legal counsel present, we talked about the changes with this policy with the admin group. We are talking more with our administrative team, Mr. Meyer, as you mentioned, with how we're handling with designated volunteers and training. This year, we're also instituting a policy sign-off on relevant policies that we want all staff to be fully apprised of. This will be one of the policies that we review, very specifically similar to what we did last year with a couple of policies that were new. We'll do a little bit more of a deeper dive with the staff as well. So again, it is a quick turn, as you mentioned, Steve, just again with this being adopted on August 1st. But I think we're underway with our admin meetings, and now we just got to take the next steps with volunteers, designated volunteers, at staff meetings. And Ms. Benson, anything else to add that I may have missed?
Just that, I think you were going to speak to it, but our training recently, we had all of our admin team, including the athletic director, present. So it was good to hear the changes to this policy were really spoken to in our investigation process and that sort of thing. So I think that we're pretty solid.
And one thing I saw, like, it seems like it's across the board, like even like bus drivers, like even like lunch monitors, like it sounds like we're kind of working top down, which makes sense. I know those are the staff members that are in right now. Do we feel we have coverage kind of to that full extent?
You're absolutely correct. The new policy does spell out in the new legislative law, bus drivers, substitutes, all of those pieces. So we are going to have to do a quick turn. I'll work with Ms. Graves on how we get this policy to the bus company, make sure it's reviewed with the bus drivers. Similarly, with our administrators, our principals and assistant principals, as we have substitutes coming on board, to your point, this is one of those policies that we've got to review with them as well. And cover all the bases.
And then I was just curious, because I know, like, we, as a parent, I just, like, sign handbooks. Does that, and this might just be my...
We have yes.
About to ask the same question.
Yeah.
So our plan is to, with Will LeBlond and with Dan, we're going to create a district message about the policy update, and that will go out in each of the principals' newsletters. In addition to Dan's update, it'll go out to all the staff at these opening days, and we will update the handbook additionally for all of the families. So that's just something that we'll do there. Yep.
Any further discussion regarding the adoption of the policy? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We do have one policy for second reading this evening, policy JICJ. We saw this a few weeks ago. Unauthorized communication devices had been modified following the first year of implementation. Any discussion regarding the second reading?
Make a motion to approve the policy for second reading.
Second.
Discussion on the motion.
I'm doing it under protest because I still hate this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Manifests.
We only
I
have one signature.
need to sign them this evening. Sorry. July 27th draft minutes.
Make a motion to approve the draft minutes.
Second.
Discussion regarding the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Superintendent report this evening.
Hey, Ms. Dion, a few updates for the board and the public this evening, professional development updates. Last week, as mentioned, the administrative team had 2 days of professional development on a variety of topics, including HR topics with attorneys, updates to, as mentioned in the previous conversation with the policy, bullying legislation, requirements for investigations, requirements for reporting. This was done with administrators and with attorneys as well, legal counsel. That was very important and went very well. There were additional updates as part of the administrative team professional development that Ms. Benson will be providing in part of her assistant superintendent report in September, so I don't want to steal thunder from that report. So that'll happen at the September date. Hiring update, the district continues to hire for teaching positions and paraeducator positions. The following is the latest installment of open positions in the district. There are now 4 teacher vacancies, which include a math teacher at Hudson Memorial School, a library media specialist at the Early Learning Center, an ESOL teacher position district-wide, and an Air Force JROTC instructor. There are still some other vacancies, such as the CTE culinary assistant, some paraeducator positions we're still looking to hire for, and 2 food service staff vacancies currently. Facilities update, this was in the district update last week. Also in my letter to all staff last week, there's been continued capital improvement projects that have occurred this summer and have been completed since the July board meeting. At the end of this week, the Alvern Fire Panel will be completed with the final installation and inspection occurring this week. From Mr. Pratt today, the countertops at the HMS Culinary Classroom will be installed at the end of this week at HMS, and that project is expected to be completed on time before students return next Monday, the 24th.
Just in the nick of time.
Yes, yes. Some of these countertops takes a little bit, and similarly, staying with that same topic, the countertops for the HMS Science Lab as well will be installed this week. This will complete this project as well. And then the other note that Mr. Pratt wanted me to mention is the parking lot lines that we typically do on an annual basis will be done this week at all the schools with the repainting of the lines of all the parking spaces. I do want to thank Mr. John Pratt, Ms. Diana Loader, the custodians, the maintenance, grounds departments for getting the schools ready for the start of the school year. As we know, summer is an extremely busy time. It is a quick turn. And our facilities, custodial, maintenance, grounds department, they do an amazing job getting the schools all ready. Other updates, as mentioned in Ms. Benson's good news update, on August 4th, Mr. LeBlond, school board members Ms. Cook and Mr. Kilgore attended the National Night Out, sponsored by the Hudson Police Department in conjunction with Rogers Memorial Library. It was a great evening. I enjoyed the meeting with parents, students, and community members. I also received officially for the first time my Rogers Memorial Library card, which was great. They did a little photo of me getting my library card, so that might be even on the library's Facebook page. This past week, the Alvern Marching Band has been performing as part of, this past weekend, the Alvern Marching Band performed as part of the Londonderry Old Home Day Parade. And upwards of 75 students took part in the performance for a large crowd along the streets of Londonderry. This Wednesday, Mr. LeBlond and I, in conjunction and partnership with HCTV and with Hudson Police Department, will have some important safety messages for students in the school community as we begin this new school year. The message will focus on school zones, slowing down in school zones where those are posted. We will be talking about e-bikes and other forms of alternative transportation that we've been pushing out in our newsletters and district update, school bus safety messages, and additional safety tips and reminders. This week, it's been mentioned by all of the principals and then the district update, we have our district workshop days, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We also have this Friday our annual school meet and greets. Early Learning Center meet and greet and community fair is this Friday from 9:45 to 12:15. Library Street, their meet and greet is 10 to 11. Dr. H.O. Smith School, their meet and greet is 11 to 12. Nottingham West Elementary School, meet and greet is 1 to 2. Hills Garrison Elementary School, meet and greet is 1 to 2. Hudson Memorial School is 12 to 1:30. And then Alvern High School, the 9th grade orientation is 8 to 11. We do have a little bit of overlap with some of those, but we try not to have too much overlap with those meet and greets. We do look forward to welcoming students back next Monday, the 24th, and welcoming our staff this Wednesday. Please check the school and district updates and the school and district messages, as there is a lot of important information, such as bus routes, accessing student schedules, additional announcements for families, students, and staff, and we look forward to the school year ahead.
Can I just, I would like to call attention to just one item of the many that you highlighted, Dan. As a reminder for anyone that may be watching or watches this hopefully this week, any student that utilizes and rides an e-bike or an e-scooter to school beginning on the first day of school needs to sign the e-bike procedure that this board adopted in the spring, and their parent or guardian also must sign the same document. I would just like to thank you, Dan, Will LeBlond, all of the building principals who have been including that week over week. Dan Pooler in the high school message that has been shared far and wide, and I sincerely appreciate it. I appreciate the work and want to thank HPD, but I just would like to remind all students and parents that come the first day of school that policy is in effect and that procedure does need to be signed by both the student and the guardians. Do we have any committee reports this evening? Okay. We had a couple of donations included in correspondence for the robotics program at Hudson Memorial, so that's for reference for both the board and the public. Any questions on that? Board member comments this evening. Dan.
Thank you, Chairwoman Dion. To Heather and Ethan, I didn't get the memo. Pink was an option for me tonight, but it wasn't Wednesday. I want to.
Salmon.
That's true. I do want to wish good luck to the people, to all the students that tried out today for the various sporting events up at Alvern High School. I certainly am looking forward to the upcoming athletic season. Hope to make it to the Blackout for Cancer football game, which I believe is, I think, October 6th, if memory serves me correctly. If I'm wrong on that, I will correct it at the next meeting. I want to wish.
The 16th.
What's that?
I think it's the 16th. 16th.
Okay, well, there was a 6 in there. Best wishes to the teachers and students for the school year of 26-27. I do want to say also as well that Old Home Day was fantastic. It was a wonderful experience as always, and I did have a lot of fun connecting with the community, with Dr. Mullis and Mrs. Cook at National Night Out. Thank you very much.
Heather.
Yes, just wanted to wish all of our new and returning students and faculty a fantastic start to the school year, and here's to a year of growth, opportunity, and new friendships.
Ethan.
None from.
Steve.
None for me.
Just 2 items. I would like to specifically thank one business here in town, Perfect Thrift, and an incoming Alvern freshman, Gabby Nichols, and her nonprofit organization, Gabby's 3 Little Birds. Over the summer, Perfect Thrift collected from their customers and others 40 backpacks that they were able to fill with school supplies, and then Gabby ran a backpack drive at Hudson Memorial about 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, and she collected 88 backpacks filled with school supplies,
wow.
plus 3 additional bins. All were donated both by Perfect Thrift and Gabby and her organization to the Hudson Community Food Pantry for our students that are in the most need in this town, and we began giving those out last Thursday. And so please know that there are students in need and there are people that are willing to step up and help, and so I would really just like to thank that business and an incoming Alvern freshman. It was really remarkable what they were able to collect and donate to the students that need it most.
It's wonderful.
With that, we have the RSA for non-public.
Citing RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2, letters A, B, and C.
Yes.
Make a motion to enter non-public.
Second.
Roll call. Dan.
Aye.
Heather.
Aye.
Ethan.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Aye. We're now in non-public.